Stop. This is not a battlefield anymore. This is a slaughter zone, and Russia is walking straight into it. Russian soldiers are being thrown forward in what the Kremlin promised would be a glorious spring campaign to deliver final victory to Mother Russia. But the plan is collapsing in blood and chaos. Soldiers are dying in horrifying record numbers as Ukrainian forces rip through the Russian ranks with relentless precision, unlike anything seen before in this war. Donetsk has transformed into a true death zone where every meter of ground comes at an unbearable price. Russia's losses are so catastrophic, they will scar the nation for 100 years, leaving Putin's troops terrified to advance. You would never know any of this if you only listened to the Kremlin's propaganda machine. 316 dead for every single kilometer, a math of madness that even Putin's generals can't hide anymore. But the real nightmare isn't just the body count, it's what's waiting for the survivors inside the fortress belt. By the end of this video, you'll see the leaked data proving why Russia's 2026 offensive is no longer a push, but a tactical suicide. Can the Kremlin survive a 2.2 million loss projection? Let's dive into the statistics that are shaking the world. According to Vladimir Putin, Ukraine stands on the brink of total collapse. He claims the mighty Russian spring offensive launched in March will crush Donetsk first, then sweep across the entire Donbas, delivering everything he demands by the end of 2026. The savage Russian war machine is unstoppable, he insists. It is inevitable. It is absolute nonsense. While Russia pretends to negotiate from a position of false strength, the grim reality on the battlefield tells a different story. Poorly trained Russian troops are dying in droves, and nowhere is this nightmare clearer or more brutal than in Donetsk. The region Russia craves more than any other still largely stands defiant, with roughly a quarter still firmly in Ukrainian hands. The offensive meant to overwhelm Donetsk has instead become a merciless deliverer of death to Russian forces on a scale never witnessed in this conflict. Just how bad is it? According to Deputy Head of Ukraine's Presidential Office Colonel Pavlo Polisa, Russian forces are now suffering a staggering 316 soldiers killed or wounded for every single square kilometer they managed to seize in Donetsk. That figure alone should shock anyone paying attention to how badly Putin's military is failing. Compare that to the past, and the horror deepens dramatically. A year ago, Russia was already paying a heavy price in Donetsk with around 160 losses per square kilometer and an average of 120 across the whole front. Now, the rate has roughly doubled in Donetsk during the first quarter of 2026. These are not minor casualties. A surging killed-in-action trend accompanies this bloodbath, spelling long-term doom for Russia's battered forces. We will return to that deadly trend shortly because it changes everything. Before that, consider what this combination of sky-high death rates and painfully slow progress truly means for Putin's ambitions. Russian forces continue to claw out tiny gains in Donetsk, but those advances deliver zero meaningful tactical or operational value. For the last 6 months, despite sacrificing wave after wave of soldiers to Putin's ego-driven hubris, Russia has achieved almost nothing of strategic importance. Total Russian losses in the first quarter of 2026 alone surpassed 90,000 troops, with more than 35,000 of those horrors concentrated in the nightmarish Donetsk region that now strikes pure terror into any Russian unit ordered to assault there. March proved especially disastrous. Reports indicate it marked the first month in over 2.5 years where Russia recorded almost no territorial gains across the entire front line. The Russian army seized a pathetic 23 square kilometers of Ukrainian land that month. For context, February delivered more than 4 times that amount, and January nearly 14 times as much. Yet in March, the very month the so-called spring offensive kicked off with fanfare, Russia ground itself into a bloody standstill while Ukrainian defenders tore through Putin's attacking columns with devastating efficiency. Still, Putin continues to demand the entire Donbas. On March 31st, President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed that Russia issued a blunt ultimatum: withdraw Ukrainian forces from the Donbas within 2 months, or face conquest by force. How can anyone take such a threat seriously when the numbers pouring out of Donetsk reveal total Russian desperation? Putin negotiates as if he holds all the cards, yet his troops bleed out at record levels for minuscule scraps of territory. The math exposes the insanity. Roughly 7,000 square kilometers of Donetsk remain to be captured, including the formidable fortress belt of heavily fortified cities that form the backbone of Ukrainian defense. At the current rate of 316 casualties per square kilometer, seizing the rest would require Russia to burn through over 2 million soldiers just for Donetsk alone, with the rest of Ukraine still waiting afterward. For perspective, Ukraine's Ministry of Finance reports that Russia has already lost more than 1.3 million soldiers across over 4 years of fighting. This Donetsk casualty rate pushes Russia dangerously close to doubling its entire war losses for a relatively small piece of land. Yet the Kremlin still acts as if it is winning. As Polisa sharply notes, anyone watching Russia's negotiating tactics recognizes the familiar pattern. When battlefield failures mount, Putin resorts to false claims of superiority and artificial deadlines to mask weakness. Their advance remains minimal. Tactical successes stay symbolic at best, with no genuine operational breakthroughs. The leadership appears completely detached from the bloody reality on the ground. Conclusions are easy to draw, and none favor Russia or the long-term survival of Putin's so-called special military operation. The Kremlin cannot even keep its story consistent in neighboring Luhansk. Toward the end of March, Russian officials claimed for the third time that they had fully captured the entire oblast. In truth, Russia controls about 99.84%, but key settlements like Novoye Horivka and Nadia still stand firm under Ukrainian control. These desperate false victories only highlight how fragile the narrative has become. All these problems should alarm the Kremlin, but an even darker crisis lurks beneath the surface, making the Donetsk disaster far worse. Military analyst Andrew Perpetua revealed the shocking detail in an April 8th post after meticulously analyzing around 300 combat videos daily from over 2,000 sources. It is not merely the massive casualty rate paired with near-zero territorial gains that should worry Russia. The number of Russian soldiers killed in action has spiked higher than ever before. March 2026 delivered the fourth highest daily KIA rate of the entire war. Over a 4-month stretch covering December 2025 through March 2026. These elevated death rates shattered expectations. In March alone, confirmed Russian KIA jumped to 5,771, a 40% increase from 4,113 the previous March. This wiped out the usual seasonal drop in fatalities as spring arrives. While winter inflicted heavy damage, Ukrainian forces have now taken over, inflicting even greater losses during the spring period than in any prior year. Russia's desperation shows everywhere. The loss of Starlink access threw their command and control into chaos. Then the Kremlin compounded the disaster by restricting soldiers' access to Telegram. Add the deep dysfunction inside the Russian military, where corrupt commanders demand bribes to keep troops away from the front and even distribute instructions on how to commit suicide to avoid capture. And the picture in Donetsk becomes one of total breakdown. The crisis deepens further. March marked the fourth consecutive month where Russian volunteer recruitment fell short of casualties suffered. From January to March 2026, Russia lost 85,290 soldiers while recruiting only 80,456. With KYA rates at historic highs, far more soldiers die permanently on the battlefield instead of returning as wounded who could later rotate back. This prevents Russia from cycling experienced troops effectively, especially as recruitment pipelines fail to sustain the spring push. All of this bloodshed serves tiny territorial gains that offer no real advantage. 316 casualties per square kilometer is catastrophic enough. When those gains provide zero operational benefit and more troops die outright than ever before, the situation evolves from crisis into full-blown catastrophe. At the heart of Putin's obsession lies the epicenter of Ukrainian resistance, the Fortress Belt. This defensive arc of four major cities, Sloviansk, Druzhkivka, Kramatorsk, and Kostiantynivka, blocks Russian forces from claiming victory in Donetsk. Ukraine has spent years, including time bought by Russia's own slow grind, turning these positions into impregnable strongholds with layered trenches, minefields, drone kill zones, and interlocking fire support. Russia has only approached Kostiantynivka and has yet to enter it meaningfully. Infiltration groups there are repeatedly shredded by Ukrainian defenses. The other three cities remain well beyond effective assault range, despite constant Russian drone and artillery harassment. Early assaults in the spring offensive already cost Putin over 5,000 soldiers, plus massive amounts of armor and equipment in just days of fighting. That brutal trend continues as Russian columns hurl themselves against the belt, only to be repelled with devastating losses. Ukraine has repeatedly proven its ability to hold key settlements against overwhelming odds. The small but vital town of Chasiv Yar has withstood more than 23 months of relentless Russian assaults. Pokrovsk earned the nickname the city where Putin shattered his teeth, after holding firm for a similar duration despite intense pressure. In Kharkiv region, Ukrainian forces not only defended Kupiansk, but recaptured nearly the entire settlement, eliminating thousands of Russian attackers in the process. These successes came through steadfast defense, innovative drone tactics, and precise artillery fire. Now the Fortress Belt awaits four larger, even more heavily prepared cities ready to inflict unprecedented damage. Russian troops have endured years in a brutal frying pan. The belt represents a fire so intense it consumes entire assault waves in moments. Ukrainian drone operators dominate the skies and ground with FPV drones and fiber optic models, creating lethal kill zones. By January, drones accounted for 3 out of every 4 Russian casualties on the front lines. That means roughly 237 of the 316 losses per square kilometer in Donetsk come directly from Ukrainian drone strikes. Around 80% of all Ukrainian battlefield hits now involve these metal monsters operating in the air, on the ground, and striking deep into the Russian rear, targeting command posts, ammunition dumps, and drone launch sites. If you want to understand why drones have completely changed the game in this war, make sure to watch our next video on the Magyar Swarm right here on our channel. Medium-range Ukrainian drones add further chaos, disrupting Russian logistics and forcing staggered operations. Ukraine's recent counteroffensives near Oleksandrivka and Huliai-Pol have forced Putin to divert elite units and manpower away from the main Donetsk push to plug gaps and protect other objectives like Zaporizhia. This weakens assaults on the Fortress Belt even more, leaving mostly lower quality cannon fodder to be destroyed while Ukraine's best defenses hold firm. The math is clear. To take the rest of Donetsk, Russia might have to sacrifice 2.2 million more soldiers. Is Putin's legacy worth the total collapse of an entire generation? Or is Ukraine's Fortress Belt simply an impenetrable wall that no army can break. Type survive. If you think Russia can sustain this or collapse, if you believe the end is near for the spring offensive, we want to hear your tactical analysis below. The myth Putin has tried to sell since before the full-scale invasion that Russia could topple Ukraine in days lies fully shattered. Every subsequent claim of inevitable victory has crumbled against Ukrainian resilience. The latest propaganda insists Donetsk is about to fall, giving Russia the confidence to demand Ukrainian withdrawal from the Donbass by the end of May. Everything we have examined exposes why that narrative is false. Russian victory in Donetsk is far from guaranteed. Putin is losing more soldiers than ever for virtually nothing, all while the shadow of full mobilization looms. He fears the domestic backlash it would trigger, as ordinary Russians would question why a supposedly easy operation has dragged on for over 4 years and now requires unwilling reserves. Polisa notes that Russia has engaged in covert mobilization for some time, but a true conventional call-up lacks any unifying idea to justify the sacrifice to society. No such idea exists. There is only exhaustion and growing realization that countless lives are being wasted for one man's legacy. Donetsk has become a massive thorn in Putin's side. Without major changes, his failure to capture it will define his rule long after he is gone. The spring offensive risks becoming the death knell for Russian momentum rather than for Ukraine. The math from the first month alone is damning losses accelerate while territorial gains collapse to almost nothing. The war has entered a dangerous new phase as a critical turning point approaches. What do you think will happen next in Donetsk? Will the fortress belt finally break the back of the Russian offensive? Or can Putin find some way to sustain the pressure despite the horrifying costs? Share your honest thoughts in the comments below. I read every serious opinion and reply to the best ones. The battlefield reality shows Ukrainian forces fighting with incredible skill, innovation, and determination, using drones and smart defenses to inflict maximum damage on a larger but increasingly disorganized enemy. Russia's aggression continues to cost it dearly in blood and credibility. Click subscribe now. Don't miss a single moment of this historic journey. Your time is valuable. We promise analyses as sharp as reality itself. Stay vigilant, stay informed. We'll see you in the next video. Disclaimer. This video contains content generated or supported in whole or in part by artificial intelligence. This material is intended solely for simulation illustration and entertainment purposes. It does not represent real-world events, nor does it constitute political or military advice or verified information. Certain elements may be fictional, dramatized, or inaccurate. Viewers should not rely on this video as a credible source of information or as a basis for real-world decision-making.